Maddie, and as a nursing major, it's always been a big passion of mine to work in a facility where I can provide substantial patient care. Throughout this year, I've been super passionate about the work life of nurses. Therefore, I've done all my projects this semester over the 12-hour nursing shift. In terms of Project 3, I have chosen to argue that implementing 8-hour shifts instead of 12-hour shifts would benefit both the nurse and the patient substantially. In terms of Project 3, I chose to do a blog because my audience is nurses in the healthcare system, and nurses tend to have a busy lifestyle as is, and the use of a blog with comments would allow them to sympathize with just a simple comment. Also, this blog allows other nurses to see that there are future nurses in my generation who sympathize with them and are also willing to fight for their rights. In the About Me section, I truly wanted to encompass my reason for fighting for this issue. In this section, I included my thesis, which encompassed how the implementation of 8-hour shifts brings a reduced risk of medical errors, less nurse burnout, proper patient care, and a positive impact on nurses' mental and physical well-being. I also included 2 pictures of me on this page at the hospital interning to appeal to credibility, as though I'm not a nurse, I have assisted in the hospital for nurses before during 12-hour shifts. These pictures only show a little bit, however, of what goes on in the room, and also shows some of the gear that nurses are required to wear during their shifts, which is a lot. In terms of the articles I used, I really wanted to encompass all of the aspects of my thesis. The first article is titled 12-Hour Shifts Are Killing Patients. I used this title to capture people's attention. I feel like by using such a literal title, it shows how serious this issue truly is. Nurses are required to work long shifts with few breaks and are often handling multiple patients at a time. They have grueling hours, they face fatigue and stress, which all lead them to make errors. In this page, I use a specific example about a nurse named Redonda Vaught, who accidentally injected a paralyzing drug, variconium, instead of the sedative drug Verised, which ultimately led to patient death. With the adoption of 8-hour shifts, this mistake could have been prevented because fatigue would have been decreased and it would have ensured the patient safety. It is essential for nurses to be fully alert and aware when tending to patients, and when they work 12-hour shifts, they are not able to do so. It's important that we take a stand on this and protect both our nurses and our patients. I think the last line is super strong and my favorite. By saying we're all Redonda Vaught, I'm truly am able to show how all nurses are like Vaught, as all nurses have made mistakes, and the issues don't stem from her herself, but it's more related to the length of the shift and the stresses she's enduring during her shift. That mistake could have been any nurse. In my second article, titled The First Step to Solving the Nursing Shortage Crisis, nurses are required to stand, perform tasks, and provide for a patient for 12 hours, which can be very exhausting. And these shifts have unfortunately led to a widespread increase in job dissatisfaction. The strain of these long shifts require a large amount of recovery time, which is just not available to nurses. So these shifts really remove any perceived benefit that people believe they have. These shifts are likely to cause hospital systems to decline and have posed a large factor in the nursing shortage crisis throughout the United States especially. With the implementation of 8-hour shifts, however, they will get a better sleep schedule, and therefore they won't suffer as much emotionally, physically, and cognitively. Nurses should not have to dread going into work every day, and they shouldn't have to face an internal battle to stay in their careers that they were once so passionate about. This is terrifying to me entering the workforce of a nurse, as I've always been passionate about becoming a nurse and helping people. So seeing that nurses are now dreading going to work truly terrifies me. My third article is titled Fighting for Their Own Health. Something that I never really thought of before discovering the withdrawals of 12-hour shifts was that by working long shifts in a setting full of germs, nursing is one of the professions that suffers the most in their physical and mental health. Nurses have to be on their feet all day, working and providing care to patients in a field full of germs, and also have to be covered in gowns and masks which restrict them from breathing and movement. This working long days and less times a week may sound appealing, but it truly does pose risks for your immune system and your psychological state. Many nurses are likely to get sick working these long hours because they lead to sleep deficits and they lead to immune problems and also they lead to depression. 12-hour shifts are not only putting patients at risk for decreased care, but also putting the nurses themselves at risk for many mental and physical health issues. Throughout all of my articles, I used two specific colors. The first color I used was blue. To me, blue represents inspiration and freedom. My goal with using blue was to inspire nurses to fight for their freedom. Also, I used blue because it's a very hospitalized color. It's a very hospital color. When you think of the hospital, you think of blue. They kind of go hand in hand. Another color I specifically used was red. And red has always been a strong color, and I use red to indicate passion and fight. As I know myself, as well as other nurses around the country, are so passionate about this subject, and we must come together and fight this war to end 12-hour shifts and implement the 8-hour shifts. So, what can you do? In this page, I included steps like contacting local hospital managers, writing to legislators, and holding protests in the community to stand up for shorter shifts. One quote that really resonated with me throughout this project is by J.F. Kennedy, and it says, "Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth." Nurses must come together and make a stand. Thank you.